About a decade ago, I acquired a company that was doing a telepresence robot. However, because of the trend at the time, robotics was out. You could not raise any money for robotics at all.
Robotics has been a tenured industry for many decades, but I'm sure you've realized in the past year or two, there's been a huge spike in interest.
And I think that just highlights again how hype cycle based a lot of this is.
But that's the sexy part about it that I think drives investor dollars to the space.
And right now, it's a very exciting time. There are great companies to invest in.
Taking real world data to bring it back to train the system again, not only just the model, but also fine-tuning the whole wake area assemblies and mechanics.
But more than anything, I'm just excited about the amount of money that's flowing in.
Where does the ROI live? Is it in the hardware, software, or in services?
So is that a value going to accrue in the LLM that runs the robot, or is it going to accrue in the actual robot?
Why are people so excited about generalist humanoid robotics right now? Is that different than the previous waves that you've seen?
Next up, I'm excited to introduce our moderator, Sabrina Paceman. She's a GP at Omni Ventures, which is one of the funds that Allocator One has backed. And the topic that they're discussing is actually near and dear to my heart in a funny way. We're talking about robots, humanoid robots, and the regular metallic robots. And I'll leave you with one very funny little story, moment I didn't expect to happen in 2025, but I had to decline a lunch date with someone. And my reason was, I'm so sorry, I'm actually already booked. I have a lunch date with a humanoid robot. Didn't think that that was going to be an expression coming out of my mouth, but humanoid robots are very much so already here. It's no longer in the realm of sci-fi. So with that, would love to introduce our fellow panel on this very exciting topic of robotics. So come on up.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our panel on humanoid robotics. We're really excited to dive in today. I have some great panelists. Before we do, we'll do some quick intros. I'll start. My name is Sabrina. I am co-GP at Omni Ventures. We are the manufacturing tech VC based in Silicon Valley. And we are very grateful to be here because of Allocator One. Since their investment, we managed to blow past our original goal of a $10 million fund, have raised 20, and our final close is at the end of the year. We are investing at high conviction into 27 companies with very high levels of ownership at a sub $10 million valuation. And in the past month, we actually have 2x MOIC, which we're very proud of, including our most recent investment into a robotics company, of which Ben is on the board of, so very excited about this. I'm here with my co-GP, Simon, who is in the audience, and together we just wrote a book called Unlocking Alpha, Rise of the Niche VC. We have it around. Feel free to ask us about it afterwards. And without further ado, we'll dive into our panel. Ben, can you please give us an introduction?
Hi, my name is Ben. So I have been involved in startups as well as public companies. I'm normally like the exec that is in charge of driving and owning the engineering and operations, like companies like Tesla, SolarCity, ESS. Been really involved in a lot of automation, the traditional automation company where I try to integrate their robots into the manufacturing process, which has been difficult because A, is the capex super high, long lead time, not very flexible. So recent year, I have bootstrap and help co-found Rambrain.ai. Why do I like them? I like them because we're focusing on AI robotics in workspace that is very low cost, easily deployable, redeployable, retrainable, super robust, and that's exactly kind of like what I have been looking for in all my experience setting up gigafactories and stuff like that. So that's why I'm here to talk about that.
Thank you, Ben. Hopefully this panel isn't too robotic for you guys, and we'll keep you awake. My name's Tarek. I'm the co-founder of Type 1 Ventures. We started Type 1 Ventures in 2019 to back any company progressing humanity to a Type 1 civilization. For the sci-fi nerds out there, I won't bore you with what that means. There's a lot of videos on it. Elon tweets about it. A fun fact, on 4/20 this year, we were 69 months old. And so, as it was told in the prophecy, we manage about a little over 1.5 billion. We're on our third fund. We firm-wide IRR is at 88% since inception, so we're very humbled by that. And I think it just goes to show the spaces that we're investing in. Space and deep tech is our core thesis, and I focus on the early stage side of the business, and then we also have a growth side of the business as well.
Hi, everybody. Daniel Theobald. Grew up in Silicon Valley, San Jose, California. Was actually fortunate to be chosen as the top computer science student there during high school and got to work on the world's fastest supercomputer at the time at the Lawrence Livermore National Lab. Ended up at MIT, was eventually chosen as the top engineering student by the faculty, and then just really pushed into AI and robotics, founded a number of robotics companies, Vecna Robotics, world-leading driverless forklift company, and a really exciting organization called Mass Robotics, which is arguably the world hub for robotics. It's a nonprofit, has over 500 robotics companies in its ecosystem.
Incredible. So to set the stage for our humanoid conversation, robotics has been a tenured industry for many decades, but I'm sure you've realized in the past year or two, there's been a huge spike in interest. And there's a big bifurcation that's happening in the industry right now. On the one side, we have specialist robotics. On the other side, we have these generalist humanoid robotics that are taking front and center stage. To show the opportunity that exists, Daniel, can you walk us through, given your over 2 decades of experience inside of the robotics industry, why are people so excited about generalist humanoid robotics right now? And is that different than the previous waves that you've seen?
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. So about a decade ago, I acquired a company that was doing a telepresence robot. However, because of the, I guess, trend at the time, robotics was out. You could not raise any money for robotics at all, so they actually didn't call it a robotics company. They called it a telecommunications device. And I think that just highlights, again, how hype cycle based a lot of this is. So there have been a number of waves over the years where robotics was exciting and it was going to change everything. And then, very, very cold, deep robotics winters. And right now, I think that it's a very exciting time. I'm a little bit hesitant to recommend investing in a lot of the companies out there because the hype is so out of control. But there are great companies to invest in. But more than anything, I'm just excited about the amount of money that's flowing in to these companies that are really doing fundamental research, again, which is not normally where you want to be investing your money, but that fundamental research is going to have a trickle-down effect and really move the industry forward.
And Daniel, what would you say is the North Star of the generalist humanoid space? Like, why are so many investors flocking to it?
All right, so this is where I think we oftentimes maybe get a little misaligned as investors, because I think the thesis is there are this many billion jobs in the world being done by humans, which will all be done by humanoid robots in the future, and therefore there's this massive TAM. Unfortunately, the reality is that's just not true. It's way, way more complicated than that, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more, but I think it's just because there's now a very simple thesis that anybody can kind of see and understand who's ever watched a movie with a humanoid robot in it. Hollywood has done a lot of damage here, perhaps, but either way, it's an exciting time, I think.
And Tarek, you're actually an investor into probably the best competitor to Figure AI, which raised the incredible round last year, into 1X. Can you walk us through what was so exciting about that deal and how you underwrote that opportunity?
Yeah, we invested in 1X when they were called Haloti. We got more than a 1X, so don't worry. And they were a Norwegian company at the time. They had been around for like 6-7 years. It was more of like a R&D project for a while. And our thesis when investing in 1X Technologies was the hardware on the humanoid robot. Like, the thesis was, okay, humanoid robotics will exist at some point in the future. We're not going to try to time what that is. But if you can get the lowest cost on the most expensive components and have innovative approach to those subcomponents, then you have a chance to win. As time went on, when we invested in 2022, OpenAI was, or Sam Altman was in that round, and then SoftBank came in after. Our thesis changed a little bit because we saw a lot of companies, it was like a commoditization of the actual humanoid, and as investors, we were not clear on where the value is going to accrue. Is the value going to accrue in the robot or in the software that operates it in the brain, right? And so is that a value going to accrue in the LLM that runs the robot, or is it going to accrue in the actual robot? Because you can go and like what's the BOM cost of a robot made in China? And so is the innovation actually the actual humanoid? But that's the sexy part about it that I think drives investor dollars to the space and to specific companies. And I fear that the space may drive too much capital and a lot of people will get hurt. It's the same fear I have on like space technology. We're big investors in that. And if you see a few companies that raise a lot of money for people that are like not tourists in the space, but it's like their one or two investments in the robotic space, they'll be done and won't invest in the robotic space for the next 10 years if their capital is stewarded the wrong way. And so for now, I'm kind of like on the sidelines, not sure what to expect. There's so many edge cases that still haven't been solved for a humanoid robot to be useful on a day-to-day basis. Like you think of the Roombas that like clean your floor, like I still prefer an actual vacuum than the actual general purpose like robot because the edge cases really like tick me off, you know?
I want to circle back to a point that's very important that you just made around where does the ROI live inside of the robotics industry? Is it in the hardware, in the software, or in services? And one point that you just made around hardware, what I've been seeing just from our own Omni perspective and speaking with many CVCs that are participating in these giant rounds with these later humanoid companies, a lot of the humanoid tech from a hardware perspective is not quite differentiated. They are frustrated by the fact that there isn't one company that has, substantially better hardware than another. And what that means is cost is going to win inside of an undifferentiated hardware space. And where is the lowest cost humanoid coming out of? It's coming out of China. And so if we're investing into humanoids just for the hardware piece of it, it seems like it's a very straightforward investment strategy. That said, there's other layers that are investable within the humanoid robotics space, which is services and software. And I would love to get the panel's perspective in terms of which of those is most investable.
Yeah, just let me grab this real quick. So in RamBrain, we currently focus on building a cobot workstation based off-the-shelf components. I will not say that we are focusing on hardware right now, but my thesis is before you sell it to a customer, the product must be reliable, especially in this manufacturing space where overall equipment efficiencies like uptime, accuracy, stuff like that are super important. So what I taught the team was, okay, let's just make sure that we try different off-the-shelf cobot arms. Let's run it through, do pilots with a whole bunch of companies to make sure that we can get to hit their criteria, and subsequently give them the BOM, train them on how to assemble it, train them on how to commission it, and train them on how to train it. The reason why is because we cannot be playing in the hardware space, and this model has worked really well, even though we are really, really early seed stage. Currently, our cost of the cobot workstation, the break-even point is less than a year. So if you think about it, in Mexico, it's about $20,000 per operator a year. China's about 15,000, US about 40,000. So our cobot can replace 3 operators. So that's roughly about 45,000 to 60,000 a year. So we must hit that price point. Right, so playing in a bespoke hardware space, it's going to be very, very difficult, like what you say, to hit the price point. So our long-term plan for RamBrain, after we kind of like, here you go, this is a blueprint on how to build it, right? We're not here to be in a software business, but we're here in a software, and we'll charge them a yearly subscription. We want to be like the Microsoft Office of all the cobalt workstations, but we also want to make sure that we test out the hardware because we don't need certain end factor for certain jobs. Every use case is somewhat different, so we would like to be able to test those out and then probably continue to let those OEMs in China and Taiwan to continue to cost down.
Yeah, I have kind of a hot take on this. I advise, I don't know, probably 30, 40, 50 robotics startups. And one of the trends that I'm really seeing that I think has a lot of merit is we talk about the fact that trying to sell robots to somebody who then uses those robots to provide a service to somebody else is incredibly difficult for a lot of reasons. Particularly, you're doing that at the time when your product is at the worst. Deployment is extremely difficult. Most robotics companies never get past their first or second or third deployment just because so many edge cases. You know, so my advice is don't sell a robot to somebody to do something. You do something. And if you're doing it with a human and a robot together, and over time the robot's doing more and more of it, that is probably your best approach. At the end of the day, the customer and the application is by far the most valuable thing that you would have in the business because you need to start this flywheel of learning. And because most of the robotics companies get caught in pilot purgatory, they call it. You're trying to deploy and the robot doesn't really work because of all these edge cases, but you know, you can't get enough deployment because it doesn't work to actually learn what you need to learn to make it work, and you're sort of stuck in this, right? So skip all that, fire the sales, you don't need any of that stuff, provide the service, use the robots to give yourselves a competitive advantage, and then eventually, maybe, if you're really lucky, you can jettison the service part because now the product is so awesome and you can actually sell it directly.
I've been toiling with this question, and I'm not making a statement, I'm more like saying what I think about. It's like, why is the humanoid form the most efficient for a robot?
It's not.
Exactly, right? So it's like, if that's the case, why is there this hype around humanoids where it's like, if I want 4 arms instead of 2, like you go to the like Amazon warehouse, you've seen the videos of like the crazy robots that move the things around and drop. Like that is an efficient use of not a general purpose robotics, but specialized. And I'm more bullish on those types of robotics than on the humanoid form end all be all, because who has an Apple Vision Pro? I bought one and I like used it for like 2 weeks and no longer use it because the application of it isn't useful like an iPhone or a computer. It's a novelty. And so I fear, and I don't know yet, if the humanoid robotics is kind of like a novelty with our current state of technology. I think about space. I think about, okay, would I send a humanoid robot to space? Probably not. Like Lunar Outpost is one of the companies I sit on the board of, and they're making the next car to drive the astronauts on the moon, and they're not putting a humanoid on there. They're going to use robotic arms to do specific tasks that can, like, it's 100% efficient for the tasks that they're being used for. If I buy a humanoid and it works 95% of the time, that's not good enough. And so that's kind of where I think about it. And going back to your point, it's like it has to provide a specific service because it's not 100% efficient yet, and it's probably not going to be for 10 years.
That said, there is a really big technological advancement that has happened in the past year around unlocking humanoids, and that is around the simulation front. For the past 2 years or so, there's been substantial step-ups in the GPU power that exists inside of all industries driven by the AI wave. And simulation has a really big impact in terms of unlocking not just humanoid robotics, but all robotics. And Ben, I know that RemBrain uses simulation. Can you walk us through why it's so impactful and what it changes for the robotics industry?
So RemBrain is computer vision AI. So using very good quality data to run a simulation could probably get us to about 75–80% of the way. Means that we call this time zero yield functionality and whatnot, which is pretty good. But it's still, from a manufacturing point of view, if you don't have an overall equipment efficiency of at least 80–85, fail, right? So what we realize is we still need the real life data. In the real life data, what we did was, which we have done recently, is to collect a whole bunch of data, group them using a standard engineering practice called, we collect all the bad outcomes and the defect modes when we do our Paretos, and we identify the top 3 Paretos. Then we use it to fine-tune the foundational model. But it's not just the model, it's the mechanics of it, right? It's understanding whether the material of the end effector will break or not break. It's understanding whether the fixture that we're putting it on has some effects. We recently did a final acceptance test for a Fortune 500 company. We took us about 1 or 2 days. The first time with the simulation data, we got to roughly about 80% of OEE. Great. But guess what? The companies, including Foxconn and Fresenius, they're all expecting 92 to 95% of OEE. We look at it, we look at the Pareto. Turns out that a couple of things. I mentioned the end factor, the material, but it's an easy fix, so we changed that. It's more resilient. The second Pareto was the placement. When you place it, it pops out. It's nothing that we can simulate. The third thing is, as we pick the component, it will shift, because if you put it all in the bin, it will shift. So it took us about maybe about 2 hours to use that real life data, and we use it to fine-tune the model, change the material of the end factor, as well as change how we organize the bins. And we went to 92% of OEE and recently demonstrated 95%, all in a matter of a couple of days. That's why I really like this idea of taking real-world data to bring it back to train the system again, not only just the model, but also fine-tuning the whole work area assemblies and mechanics.
I want to pose a question to the rest of the panel, and you as well. I have an answer in my head, but what do you think is the most useful application for humanoid robots in the next 5 years?
Well, for me, it's obviously in manufacturing, where I see rows and rows of operators just doing the same stuff, right? We do not need, at this moment, a super smart a humanoid that can do everything. When I run factories, I have specific modules, specific operators specialized in this area, this area. We have very simple standard operating procedure that we expect them to follow, right? So to me, RAMBrain is the right space that I can use now, as seen from all the POs that we are getting, that will just do simple assembly, that we can trust them, because I do not need a $16 per hour operator to make multiple decisions.
I would just say that I think that all of the research going into humanoids is going to have a great trickle-down effect for all robotics. And so in that sense, the best application for humanoid robots is sort of bringing a lot of capital into the industry, which is going to benefit all of the purpose-built robots.
From an engineering standpoint, it would have to be something where you can benefit from a high center of mass, that you don't have to worry about tipping over, so relatively light applications physically, and then also requiring substantial dexterity, so needing all of the fingers. So there's a variety of applications there that we could dive into, but...
I kind of go more on companionship. I feel like that might be one of the best.
Going back to the date example that happened at the beginning of our panel.
Like sex robots, I'm kidding.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we're at time. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're all available afterwards to talk more about humanoids and anything you'd like. Thank you.